Hey guys, welcome back. Alright, so this video is going to be the first installment of the new series I'm creating, where I'm going to be going through individual stocks and giving them a full breakdown. In the breakdown, I'm going to be going over my overall opinion on the risk of the investment, what type of investment I think the stock falls under, and what direction I think the company is going in. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe. I go over investing tips, stock market news, and try to teach financial literacy to the average viewer. Alright, so the first company on my list is going to be AMD. Let's jump right into it. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about AMD, AMD is one of the world's largest semiconductor companies, and they focus on creating GPUs and CPUs for the average consumer, the PC enthusiast, and for servers for large companies and for cloud-based storage facilities. So, looking at AMD as a company, you have to kind of break it down and really see what is it doing that's any different than the rest of the semiconductor industry. So if you look right now, over the past quarter and year, AMD has kind of been destroying the average semiconductor as far as revenue growth. In the last quarter, their revenue increased 34.45%, and in year to date, they have now increased the revenue by 25.71%. Now, one, that is a very high growth company. Anything with high, especially with higher double digits growth in the revenue, is something that a lot of investors really want to look into and really see what's driving this company. But a lot of people might throw out the kind of assumption that, oh, well, maybe the entire industry is booming. You know, like Nvidia's up almost 100% in the past year. Intel's up, 30, 40% in the past year. What's going on with the semiconductor space is just that everybody's moving up. Well, if you take a look at the entire market as a whole, you can see that in the last quarter, the average semiconductor stock only increased revenue by about 15%, and year over year, the average semiconductor stock has only increased its revenue by 8%. And in comparison, AMD is kind of decimating the average stock in this sector, which in my opinion poses AMD for a really good growth investment type strategy. Now, if you want to look up here, the basic investment types that I've broken down AMD into are going to be focused around growth, swing trade, and a 1-year short long-term investment. Now, the reason why I can assume that AMD is going to be a great growth stock is because it is it is rapidly increasing its revenue at a much faster rate than its peers. So this means that of all the semiconductor stocks, in my opinion, AMD is kind of trying to seize the moment and get out as much product as possible while we're in this great bull market. Now, AMD is kind of taking a unique approach as the fact that it is tackling both the GPU and the CPU lineup, and is the only company right now that does both. So if you compare it to, say, Intel and Nvidia, its biggest counterparts, both of them are much bigger companies. However, they both only focus on one individual semiconductor. So with AMD, AMD has the ability to just try to pick away at market share of both of these companies, and it will ensure that it has revenue growth in the future. So you can kind of look at AMD as a double-edged sword. It's going to be attacking Intel on one side and then AMD on the other side. And if it has any partnerships with either one of them, as it just recently got, it's going to be able to partner up with one person that is bigger than it and slowly chip away from the other side. Now, as a stock, I think AMD is going to attract 3 different types of investors. These investors are going to be growth investors, swing traders, and short long-term investors with an average time horizon of about 1 year and give or take a few months. Now, in my personal opinion, I think that the most effective strategy would either be the swing trading or growth investing on AMD. Now, mainly because I have personally swung trade AMD about 9 times in the past year because their stock price has been extremely volatile and very cyclical. It has a lot of support around 1024 and a lot of resistance around 1410. Now, I, and like most other investors, have just kind of abused this volatility, and the second I get between 15 and 20% gains, I sell out of it, wait for it to plummet, buy back in, and repeat the process. And until AMD is able to break out of this pattern, I don't think many long-term investors or growth investors are going to be willing to really have a large stake in the company. That being said, because of a lot of news that's been going around with AMD, I think that a lot of growth investors and long-term investors are going to really start taking a look into the company and could force that stock to break its pattern and really allow AMD to become the company that it should be on paper. Now, I'll be honest, for all of last year, especially while I was swing trading AMD, I was overall bearish on the company. I didn't think that AMD really had any news that was going on for it, with the exception of Ryzen, that I thought was really going to have any staying power with the company taking away market share from either NVIDIA or Intel. I thought Ryzen was a great lineup, but I thought that the next lineup from Intel was just going to do what it always did and put AMD in its place and kind of smack it down with its superior specs. Thankfully for AMD, that did not happen. With the important news that's been going around about AMD, I think that these are, in my opinion, the most important ones. First off, AMD in 2018 is expected to become profitable for the first time ever. Now, that is kind of outstanding. AMD's been around for decades now, and for it to finally have its financials and its company set up so that way from here on out it can be just continuously be gaining profits and having all this extra money that is now going to be able to either devote towards research and development or just kind of, expand its overall manufacturing plant and really try to take out market share. I think that that allows AMD to have a lot of opportunity now in the foreseeable future. Another thing to keep in mind with AMD is that AMD currently makes the best GPUs for crypto mining. Now, in my opinion, from a tech standpoint and from a gaming standpoint, the Vega 54 and 64 are relatively overpriced for the performance that they give in games. Now, they were, when they first came out, they were going to be such better buys than the 1070 and 1060 from NVIDIA, but it was only because of the price difference. And then after the first month of release, the price went through the roof. It originally came out for, $500, and now on Newegg, I saw a couple of prices for $1,500 for these GPUs. And while a lot of GPUs right now are a bit inflated because of the crypto mining, the GPUs from AMD, in my opinion, are drastically overvalued. However, I looked into it and I really wanted to know why, and it's because crypto miners, for anybody that's trying to mine, Ethereum or any Ethereum-based ICO, which is the majority of them now because of the use of smart contracts, AMD's overall architecture is much better at breaking down algorithms than NVIDIA is. And so if all these miners that want to get on board on the bandwagon with all the ICOs that keep coming up and newer cryptos, they all switch to AMD because it's a much faster hash rate and it's a much more, profitable system for mining. NVIDIA still is better when people are trying to mine Bitcoin and Bitcoin-based cryptocurrencies. However, with the nature of Bitcoin's been around for so long, and now the longer that Bitcoin is out and the more people that try to mine it, the more difficult it is to mine Bitcoin because of the way that the algorithm is broken down. I think a lot of the newer miners and a lot of the people moving forward that really see mining as a possible way to make money, a lot of them are going to be focusing on these ICOs and Ethereum and things like that. So, in my opinion, I believe the majority of them are going to be running full AMD systems to really utilize the unique architecture from the AMD Vega lineup. Now, another thing to really keep in mind is AMD has partnered with Intel, and I cannot tell you enough that I am shocked the fact that I am saying those words. I think everybody in the PC community is shocked that that ever happened, and I still personally don't really believe it, but So, AMD and Intel created a memory module that utilizes a 8th gen Intel processor, a high-speed memory hub, and a Vega-based GPU. And that is outstanding, in my opinion. It's nicknamed Hades Canyon, and it is what is going to be going into the majority of higher-end laptops and notebooks for the rest of 2018, probably into 2019 as well. This whole module is extremely slim, extremely fast and powerful, and only requires minimal wattage, which means that it's efficient, it doesn't affect your battery life, and it will provide really good graphics in comparison to the average laptop, which will mean that everybody that wants to get a high-end laptop is generally going to be getting this Hades Canyon module. Now, Lenovo has already introduced a few laptops that are going to be utilizing this module, and to me this is amazing because now it allows AMD to kind of piggyback off of Intel's sheer dominance in the CPU space. Now, Intel has about an 84, 86 market capitalization of consumer-grade laptops, and generally it would either be you would have Intel integrated graphics, or you would have an NVIDIA external graphics, well, integrated graphics that would be coupled with all of these higher-end laptops that weren't directly for gaming. But now that Intel is allowing AMD to kind of budge in on their turf, that means that Intel can cut costs because now they don't need to spend a lot of time developing their integrated graphics, but now they're going to be going to AMD instead of NVIDIA for the majority of their new like sleek laptop designs. And with how everybody is focusing on, you know, really slim, lightweight, and portable laptops right now in the foreseeable future, and that trend's been continuing, I think AMD is going to be able to take a good amount of market share away from NVIDIA in the laptop space. And, you know, it's great for AMD because now you're pretty much one of your biggest rivals, your biggest rival, is allowing you to directly take market share away from your other biggest rival. And that just poses really well for AMD, and it's good for Intel, but it's an overall great scenario for AMD. And now, the other thing that allows AMD to kind of benefit on the Intel aspect of things is Meltdown. So I made a video, I'll link it down in the description, that really goes in the nitty-gritty of what this scenario means for AMD and Intel. But the gist of it is that Intel has a major security flaw, and the only real way to fix it is kind of with a band-aid fix, and will be implemented from Apple, Microsoft, and Linux to kind of just have a patch and to make hackers, you know, take longer to hack into your system. And these patches are all going to considerably bog down your performance. Now, for the average consumer, that doesn't matter, but in my opinion, the server CPUs that are near at max load anyways, they can't handle a bog down of performance. So now a lot of companies are now going to be forced to really decide, do they want to, you know, deal with the possible security issue and with the bogged down performance, or do they just want to bite the bullet and switch over to an AMD-based system to avoid all these issues together? And I personally think companies that, you know, the majority of their revenue stream is coming from these servers are going to be forced to make that switch. So really good news for AMD and really bad news for Intel, in my opinion. So AMD is kind of starting to gain traction, and a lot of news that is really supporting that traction in both the CPU and the GPU space. And in all honesty, if either one of those avenues work, AMD is going to gain a lot of market share and become a lot more profitable in the future. And from the look of it right now, both of these scenarios are likely going to happen. So AMD has two possible great avenues to go down that are really going to start making AMD more profitable and more appealing to the average investor. Now, for the overall risk assessment that I give AMD, I'm going to be giving them about a 3 to 5 on my scale. And that is mainly because, as of right now, for growth and long-term investors, AMD's chart pattern has been extremely volatile, and it has been kind of knocking between the same range for the past 6-8 months. Now, once it's able to break that pattern, I believe that is going to be the real signal for a lot of growth investors and a lot of long-term investors to really, you know, put down a lot of money and just kind of ride out the wave. But until it breaks out of that pattern, I think a lot of long-term and growth investors are going to be holding back. They'll start their positions now, sure, but I don't think they're really going to be finalizing their positions until it is proven that AMD, yes, is in a reversal, and yes, it's breaking out of this, and it's going to be continuing to new highs. In addition to that, it is a tech-based stock, and the whole semiconductor space right now has been kind of exploding the past couple of years, and that does pose some risk of any type of correction that's going on in this. Like I said, the average semiconductor is only up 8% in revenue for the year, but the industry is up between 60 and 70%. So that's a bit inflated. However, if you look at companies like AMD that kind of shine in the semiconductor space, AMD is, in my opinion, one of the more correctly valued semiconductors in this space. So I think AMD is a little bit more resistant to any type of correction that'll be going on in this space. However, it is something to think about when you're trying to start your own investment. And finally, yes, AMD is finally starting to, it looks like AMD is going to be able to finally start taking market share away from Intel and NVIDIA. However, it is still fighting AMD, Intel and NVIDIA, which are kind of the semiconductor titans. And time will tell on how well it's able to do this. I don't think Intel's going to be able to react nearly as fast as they wanted to the AMD movement, mainly because of the whole Meltdown issue. And they're going to have to deal with a lot of issues as far as consumers suing them and reimbursing a lot of people and really trying to fix things on their end before they can really focus on before reclaiming their throne from AMD. However, NVIDIA, it is still yet to see with how they react to the Hades Canyon module with Intel and what they do for their next line of GPUs that are going to probably be better than Vega in, the next year or so. So it's really interesting to see what direction this is going to be going in, and possibly NVIDIA might change its architecture to be more optimal for mining, but I'm not sure if that's something that a GPU company is really trying to tie themselves to and really trying to focus all of their resources on. So I think things are reasonably safe for AMD moving forward, but those are just kind of my reasons why I can't give it like a sure thing, or obviously no investment's a sure thing, but overall in the tech space, I think AMD is a safer bet, but it's a much more volatile bet. So, take that with what you will. I'm not a financial advisor, obviously. This is just my opinion and the brief breakdown of my due diligence. And, tell me what you think. So I think AMD is going to have a great year in 2018. I really do. Let me know down in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there something you think I missed? Is there any other stock that you want me to give a breakdown like this? Do you like this format? Is there anything else that you want me to include? Or do you think, I don't need this? You can just go and look that up on your own. Let me know. I really enjoy giving these breakdowns, especially of tech stocks. So, if you guys like this, just let me know. Leave a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. See you guys.